just cooked up a huge steak. And some potatoes, and I got some sourdough bread. As soon as I eat this 5-pound meal, I'm going to share some emails. All right, here we go. Camp lazy boy. What do we got? Red. Getting there. I hate missing people's emails. Everybody needs to be heard. All right, here we go. Titled Northern Wisconsin. My only sighting happened in 1981, right after I got out of the service. It was after bar closing, but I was driving around feeling out of sorts, like I didn't belong home anymore and certainly didn't want to remain in the service. It was squatted on the side of the road, waiting for me to pass by. It was moonlit and pretty bright outside. The moment I noticed it, it turned its head and looked right at me. All I could think of was, what the F is that? I continued on my way, kind of wanting to turn around and get another look, but mostly I just wanted to get the hell out of there. The next day, some friends, who I know doubted me, but being polite, returned to the area, but no tracks, and no sign of what I know I saw. I got a lot of ribbing over it, but I'm not sure how accurate my memory of the encounter is anymore. I sometimes think other people's stories have influenced what I think I remember. Fast forward to the middle 1990s. My brother and I bought a cabin even further north in Wisconsin. Lots of strange happenings started almost right away. From missing stuff, strange noise, orbs, both on our trail cameras, and my brother witnessed one big orange one. One particular stand I hunted near a very large swamp. Very often I could hear what sounded like children playing in the swamp. There couldn't have been anyone in that nasty swamp. It's too remote and ugly. I've been in it. My brother's stand, he often could hear people talking, but could never make out words. Trees falling, knocking, walking sounds, branches breaking. Most could be anything. On a solo trip a few years ago, unsure exactly, I was sitting at our picnic table after dark listening to the critters, wolves, we have elk nearby, white-tailed deer, bears, just enjoying a nice evening when the owls started. Lots of them. I've never heard that many and sounding agitated for some reason. As I listened from the west side of our cabin, I was curious and walked between the cabin and the woodshed to lean in my truck on the east side. Some sounded far back, some sounded very close. I was starting to feel kind of weird about it. The moment my arms rested on the bed of my truck, all noise stopped. I was thinking, how weird is that? When the sound of a car door slamming very close startled me, I turned my head to see who the hell snuck up on me without me knowing or hearing them, but no one was there. No car, no people, no tracks of anyone or anything. I have no idea how the sound of a car door can be imitated or why. I just considered it another weird thing until I heard someone else in a remote location heard a car door slam. My brother and I are both convinced we have some of these beings hanging around our cabin. He wasn't too convinced until a few years ago, and he even got some pictures of what we believe are our troublemakers. I do believe if they wanted to harm us, they could have at any given time. I just think that when we're nearby, they want to make sure we know we're not alone. Thank you for your service, and thanks for reading everyone's experiences. A lot of them I'm familiar with. Tim. All right, Tim, thanks, man. I don't care what anybody says. I think that's shitty luck when you have these things around your home or your private cabin. It just sucks. It just sucks. That's all there is to it. Nothing fun, nothing good comes of it. I mean, there's a handful of people out there to claim to have intimate relationships with these things. I don't mean sexual. I mean on a friendly basis, and they help each other, they protect us and watch over us, and on and on and on. And that's more on the rare side of the literally thousands of emails we receive together here, right? And I'm pretty sure when you said you saw things squatting down, you saw what you saw. Watching all these stories on this YouTube channel can't make your mind think that you possibly seen that, right? Otherwise, we'd have a pile of people writing in all of a sudden, remembering what they saw and forgot about non-stop, I'd guess. But anyway, thanks for sending it in, man. And obviously, you're going to hear from it in the comment section of people wondering where that photograph is that you mentioned. It's up to you if you want to send it, send away. If not, I'm okay, I'm good. Alright. Nothing like camping alone in the middle of northern British Columbia reading Sasquatch frickin' emails. Actually, on that note, I had this shit scared out of me today, somewhat. I came back this afternoon to camp and I was cooking some food right here. And you see I've got this tarp wrapped around my tent. My tent's behind me. This tarp's around a little pop-up shelter. It's very quick and easy for me. Mobile. I'm very mobile at any time. And I don't need that much comfort when I'm by myself. So anyway, I'm facing this way right here cooking, and I could hear something coming, like fast, without a doubt about it, coming straight at my camp. And I kind of kicked myself a little bit. I didn't feel threatened at all, because I didn't lunge for the rifle, which is right here, loaded at all times, right? Just for the 1 in a million. And this frickin' yearling mule deer came ripping, probably 10 feet behind my stove and table. Ripping behind me, looked at me, stopped in the alders right there, spun around, looked at me panting, and then it went ripping in the wide open grass right here and did a big half horseshoe, panting, and then dove back into the well and disappeared. Like, wow. And thankfully a grizzly bear didn't come behind it, and a pack of wolves didn't come behind it either, so I don't know what spooked it. But then about 15 minutes later I saw a mature doe that way about 100 yards, and she didn't seem too spooked, so I'm sure she was looking for a yearling. Just thought I'd share that little tidbit. Now, my experience with these beings as a younger kid is the title. Hey Steve, thank you for your videos and sharing these stories. I'm only 24 years old, but I watch your videos frequently, and I really appreciate what you do. This experience has stuck with me since I was 10 years old. I grew up in a very rural part of Pennsylvania. My backyard was nearly a mile of forest. My dad and grandpa are avid hunters, and I was raised to shoot rifles and archery. Hell, I could shoot a bow before I could speak properly. One morning, early December, when I was a young kid, my dad and I went hunting. We hunted at the same spot every year, and it was so plentiful with deer. Our neighbor up the street was an old man, a farmer. He had a huge piece of land that he allowed my dad and I to hunt on. We went out about an hour before sunrise. It was very dark, very cold, and like every winter morning in Pennsylvania, it was very quiet too. My dad and I began the trek to our hunting spot. There was a cornfield on top of this hill, and towards the end of the field, it extended into the forest, so it was surrounded by forest on the 3 of the forest sides. We walked back to our hunting spots. My dad took a spot on the left side of the field, along the tree line at the top of this hill. The field has a downward slope from left to right, and I took my spot against a tree on the far back right corner of this field, where the forest begins and the field ends. For context, we walked nearly a mile to get to our spot. Excuse me. This land was part of over 100 acres owned by the farmer, our neighbor, and he only let one other person hunt on that land. The other person we knew well, and he wasn't out there that morning. When I was sitting in front of me was the field. I could see my dad about 100 yards away, up the hill against the tree in his spot opposite from me, and behind him was dozens of acres of forest. To my left was the tree line that extended along the field, and the hill sloped down into the forest, so there was a stream at the bottom that flowed from my left to the forest behind me. And directly behind me was about 3 miles of nothing but forest. No houses, no people, nothing but woods. It's kind of funny hearing about 3 miles of forest behind you. But meanwhile, I think I've got 1,000 behind me this way. We have hunted the spot my whole life, before and after this experience. We have seen dozens of deer, we've had encounters with coyotes, and my home just 5 minutes up the street was frequented by black bears in my backyard. Lots of wildlife. My dad and I have seen every type of mammal that lives in PA on that property. Shortly after the sun began to come up, only the top halves of the trees were lit. I was still sitting in the shadows. The sun was rising through the forest behind me, and the forest silence was split out of nowhere by a sound that I can still hear even while typing this 14 years later. I can only describe it as what sounded like a wild man screaming. It sounded sad and also threatening, and it split the silence in a way that gave me chills and really freaked me out. It's hard to say how far away it was, but judging by the lack of echo and the volume, I guess it was maybe 50 yards behind me in the woods somewhere, with the sound being directed at me. My dad was too far away for me to speak with him, and we didn't have walkie-talkies because he would just come over to me when he needed to relay info. I could see my dad stand up and look in my direction, and then a few moments later there was another scream that came from much further in the woods, and was quieter and echoed. And then immediately after, the closer scream responded back at it, this time screaming into the forest, not at me. Now, Steve, I've seen and heard coyotes, and it was not a coyote. It was a distinctly human-like sound to it. I gathered my gear and my rifle, threw my bag on my shoulders, and immediately started running up to my dad. I was very afraid. It was a threatening experience that is still so vivid to me to this day, all these years later. Now I'm a hiker and a hunter. I've spent hundreds of thousands of hours in the woods. I've encountered bear on solo hiking trips. I've had my run-ins with many animals and often keep my wits about me and know what to do in encounters. But what unnerved me the most about that morning was just how threatening the scream sounded. Whatever it was very clearly telling me to leave. When I got to my dad, I could tell he was shaken up too, and he never shows fear in the forest. My dad is a very stoic man. I don't think I've ever heard him curse my whole life, but to see him unnerved and remembering how I felt, that experience will stay with my whole life. To this day, I've never heard anything like it. This email has run longer than I intended. Thank you for everything you do, Steve. I appreciate you giving the people a voice. I've told this story to some of my hometown friends over campfires, and I've heard some crazy stories from some of my friends as well. Whatever these things are, I have no doubt of their existence, but I can't begin to speculate their intentions. Be safe out there, Steve. Thank you again. Best regards, your friend John. Okay, John, thanks for sending that in, man. And I'll just imagine how many people right now are shaking their heads in agreement with you because they heard the same scream, slash roar, slash whatever you want to call it. I'll bet you tens of thousands of people have heard that. What an unnerving thing to hear. And I hope I don't hear it the next week, or even tonight or right now. Thanks again for sending that in, John, alright? Appreciate it. Reading Sasquatch stories in the middle of remote BC alone. I don't think I'll have any nightmares tonight. Hopefully. I don't. 10 family members, including myself, have seen these beings. Hi, Steve, my name is... Alright. Hi, Steve, my name is Lola Brown. You may use my name because my give-a-damn busted a long time... You may use my name because my give-a-damn busted a long time ago as to what people think of me. I'm going to start off by saying thank you for this channel and the name Scott Carpenter. He lives in the same little town that I do in Tennessee. I'm from a family of 10 kids. 6 of us have seen these things, along with other family members. I'm saving you my story for now, as to tell them all would simply take too long. It all started when my parents moved to a house out in the country, as we call it. I was 6 or 7 years old. I'm now 62. But what happened to my mom and I is forever burned into my mind. On our first day at the house, there was a big leg bone, of some animal in the front yard. My mom told my brothers to throw it away. They did. Only for it to be in the same place the next day. This went on for 3 or 4 days. One night I was asleep on the couch. Something woke me up, scratching on the screened window. To my horror, there was a huge hairy being with red glowing eyes looking in at me. We looked at each other for a moment, and when I could move, I ran to my parents' bed. And that's where I stayed the rest of the night. I never told my parents about what I thought was a demon. One night my dad went to an auction, while my mom stayed at home with us kids. Mom and I was the only one awake when on our front porch came the most ungodly sound we have ever heard. God honestly sounded like a woman being strangled to death. A horrible gurgling sound. This went on for what seemed like at least 30 minutes. As soon as my dad's headlights hit the house, it stopped. Mom would always talk about a baby she heard crying at night, but all was asleep. Some 25 years later, I finally asked my mom, "Mom, did you ever see anything at that house?" She said, "Yes." She said there was a big, hairy thing standing on the porch looking in at her. I saw the fear in her eyes, and I dropped the subject then and there. When I was 10 years old, my sister, niece, and I was walking on a back road. As we lived on a busy highway, we thought it'd be safer. I was carrying my 3-year-old niece when we came to a wood line on one side of the road, and the other side had a cornfield. We started hearing something large, walking in the woods. We walk, it walks, so again I think, demon. I threw my niece down and my sister and I ran off. Of course my niece started crying, so we went back to pick her up, and when I picked her up, we started running. So did it, all the way to the end of the woods. Never saw a thing. When I was 20, my then husband and I was going up a mountain road. Halfway up, there on the side of the road, up a small embankment, was a very large being. Again, its eyes glowed red. The fear I felt was so intense I couldn't breathe. It made my husband turn around and take me back home. I've lived in the city for the past 30 years, and I've not seen or heard any here. But Scott Carpenter says they're out there at a park, only about a mile from my house. That's unfortunate to get that mention, isn't it? I think I will take up walking over there. I really want to see one now that I know what they are. I will send in my family's experiences when I see how this goes. I hope I have made this readable. Thanks, Steve. Lola Brown. Lola, thank you so much for taking your time to send us that email, all right, and that share. And don't forget, be careful what you seek, all right? Many people have gone intentionally looking for these beings after they've seen them, after they've become aware of them, and the outcome hasn't been much to be envied, right? So just be safe and be careful. Make sure you make responsible choices, all right? For whatever reason, you're one of the chosen ones to be included into the Club of No Return, and I don't think it would take too much for you to have another experience, right? What we don't want you having a life-changing experience for the worse, you know? You know what I mean? So be safe out there, all right? And we're looking forward to sending the rest of your family's experiences in too. All right. Mark this next one as read. All right, the title is Lake Giacomo Story. Favorite swimming spot was Shelter House 6, which sat at the edge of the tree line. The path down to the boat dock was about 500 yards long and 4 feet across, surrounded by woods. A few friends and I decided to take a dip and cool off. One of my friends popped his head out of the water and said he felt a head just under the dock. So we dove under to see if we could see anything, but the water was so murky we couldn't see a thing. Being creeped out by this, we decided to end our swim. As we headed back up the path, one of my friends lagged behind. As the rest of us made it up to the shelter, our friend came running out of the tree line, screaming, "Get in the car!" As we were burning rubber out of the parking lot, I asked what happened. He said something was running through the woods towards him and breaking the tree limbs above his head. He threw his boom box or whatever it was and took off running. Nothing more was said. A week to the day, a body was found under that same dock. We all freaked. Needless to say, this is back in 1974. Many have had sightings of Sabe there over the years. Thanks for lending an ear to everyone. Holy shit. That's a different flavor, isn't it? Maybe... Did you find out any details of the dead body? Who it was, how long it was missing, or how they passed away? That's creepier than shit. Touching a dead body under a dock. Whoa. I don't know which would have been worse, that or having one of these things chasing after you, breaking all the massive limbs around you, right? Maybe if you get a chance, email us back and tell us what the scoop was with the dead person, alright? I'm sure many of us will be curious. Alright. This is a different kind of a title. This is the title. I'm sure this will be classified top secret. Very controversial. Read if you dare. You seem to have large cojones. We'll see. Okay, bring it on. Steve, listening to you the other day got me really thinking hard. I'm really surprised nobody's brought this up yet. If the Sabe is so much stronger, faster, way taller, and can do the things I keep hearing, such as mind speak, disappearing, moving through the area without leaving a trace, not to forget to mention the fact that some people have lost time and memories of what happened during the lost time. And don't forget the people that I've heard of being undressed and clothing never found. I guess I'm trying to point out that we, even with the guns, we have our way... I'm trying to point out that we, even with the guns we have, are way outclassed. Even with the headshot, you might be able to make it out if his friends don't get you. Now think of this with as many sightings. Now think of this with as many sightings all across our continent, not to mention the world, the whole world, and nobody has mentioned they are breeding and multiplying every year. And so are we. Why has nobody noticed that if the government did come out and say, yep, they're real, now every wingnut, tree hugger, and most of all the liberals and Democrats will definitely take this chance to protect all the forests for any reason they can. And what better way than to do it? Tailor-made way to screw us. All no more hunting, because now they need the food, meaning the hairy bastard. No more fishing, no more logging, backpacking, etc. Get the picture? So, should we act now and take them out, or just sit back as usual and let the government totally screw us again? I hate to say it, but it seems most are not nice and don't give a crap about us, or our wants and needs. It comes across to me, from what little I know, that they are the top predator of this world, who have shown that they will take us out for something simple as not leaving when they want you to. Kind of makes me think that eventually it'll come down to us or them. What if they are working with our governments and they turn them on us? Like I said, just got me thinking, JB. Well, there's some thinking, that's for sure. I don't know, I guess we'll see what happens. But I got a funny feeling that there's some more, I think there's some crazier shit going on with our planet right now than have anything to do with these damn things, right? That's what I think. Who knows? Oh, and as far as the gun thing goes, just so all you know, people, not only people but animals, everything indirectly but directly tells us things. Without going into too many different tangents and details, what I'm saying is 100% of all people that point a gun at these things, it's a negative reaction from them. So, guess what that's telling us directly? That guns will harm them. Alright? If our guns couldn't harm them, they'd probably smile when you pointed a gun at them, or they'd laugh, or they'd motion to you to pull the trigger. Go ahead, shoot me. It's not going to do shit. Right? They don't like it when we point guns at them. They growl, they scream, they look intimidating, they shake their head, nope, don't do it, or you can even reportedly put the words in your head, don't do it. So, guns can harm them. Take from it what you will with that statement. I'm getting tired. That food's taking me down. Let's see if I can get this one more out. I'm gonna go jump my sleep bag, set the alarm for 5, and have nightmares all night because of what I read tonight. Southwest Georgia Sasquatch encounter. Hello, Steve. I'm 22 years old and currently attend the University of Georgia. I'd like to share an experience with you and the people that I had in the last deer season of 2020. Last fall, I was hunting in the woods of southwest Georgia, just outside of a small town called Reynolds. It was November, and I had stealthily got into my tree stand one afternoon, and I had no scent. These deer are big and pressured down here, so this is a must to get a mature buck. When it came close to dark, I had deer all around me. I was completely surrounded, so I waited about 30 minutes past dark until the deer left. Then I finally got down very quietly. I was being extremely cautious and silent in my half-mile trek back to my truck, blocking most of the beam from my flashlight with my hand due to the amount of deer in the area. When I got halfway back, I reached a swamp bottom that is so thick you cannot see more than 5 to 15 yards. As soon as my foot hit that bottom, I got that overwhelming feeling of being watched, and I was full of fear. My senses were on fire as I slowed down, listening as hard as I could for what could be near me. That's when I heard something to my left, and it was approaching me. I've never had anything approach me in the woods that I've been hunting since I was 7 years old. As I got closer, I realized it was copying my every move. Every time I would take a step, it would put its foot down at the exact same time. And trust me, there was no doubt it was walking on 2 ground-shaking feet. It finally got about 10 yards from me, and I stopped, ripped my flashlight into the woods, and it was just far enough away in the thickness that it could see me, but I could not see the creature. The woods went completely silent. At this moment, I knew I had to get out of there, and to do it fast. My mind was telling me to go, go, go. So I started speed walking so that I would still be able to hear and keep my breathing under control, while being ready to turn around and let my Winchester 270 rip into what was following me. As I continued to my truck, the thing got a little further away from me as it opened back up into the pine trees, but it was still right on me, staying between 15 to 20 yards away, and the dread was very intense. I finally got to where I knew I could see my truck lights if they would turn on this dark night. So I started repeatedly spamming my key fob until those lights finally flashed in my direction. At that very moment, the dread went away. I didn't hear another single sound of this thing that had been following me up to this point. I got in my truck with unreal amounts of peace, but I was also extremely concerned and confused about what had just happened to me. When I got home after that weekend, I began doing my research, and it led me here to your amazing channel and so many other great outlets. The information to be educated on this topic is out there for all people, but the powers that be, they're pushing the narrative we all receive on mainstream media, make it a laughed at phenomenon by the general public. After listening to your channel for many, many months, Steve, here are my conclusions on why I think that is. Number 1, as you said before, if humans know Sabe people are real and go on hunts for these people and kill them, I doubt it will end up pretty for humans in that area or even on the earth in the long run. Who knows what they will do. Number 2, if people find out there are 10-foot tall hairy monsters running around the woods, that we have no clue what their intentions are, or from what we have heard are many times not good, what is going to happen to the multi-trillion-dollar worldwide outdoor industry? I'd imagine a lot less people are going to venture out into the woods on hikes, go camping, and hunting, etc. These are some of my thoughts. Thanks so much, Steve, for what you do and making it possible for me to put the pieces of my puzzle together to know what happened to me and what is happening all around this planet. I'm eager to continue to push the people's narrative and take down these nasty governments that continually lie to us every day. It is through people like you that are making a real difference on this planet. Sincerely, Josh Bennett. Josh, making a difference right alongside you, man, and every single person that shares here with all you through me, and every single person that subscribes to this channel, right? And you're still in school. Make sure you speak openly and honestly to as many people as you can about the truth. The truth about this topic and many others. Like you said, you're very correct. The lying shit show that's going on our planet today. Your generation has to speak openly about the truth, the hard truth, and don't worry about anybody's feelings anymore, all right? Just get those hard words out and get them spread. Square up, shoulder to shoulder, look people in the eye and speak honestly and fill everybody in about the honest frickin' truth. All of them, all right? Very important. Anyway, super glad you shared that with me to share with all the people here, all right? Why those things do that to us, I haven't a clue. I haven't a clue. You know, a lot of people say they have respect for these beings. I know they aren't the only being on the planet that we're not officially informed with. I never jump on anybody's bandwagon when it comes to anything. I figure everything out for myself and I share what I learn with everybody. I am going to, for myself personally, I'm going with our canine's reaction to keep me safe. 100% of canines are absolutely terrified of these beings. That alarms the shit out of me. Alright? That alarms the shit out of me. I want to know what these dogs know. What is it? Man, I wish a dog could speak English sometimes or tell us exactly what the hell's going on. If these were our kind guardians, the watchers, the keepers of the forest, the protectors, dogs would wag their tail. Would they not? When they're presented in the same space as these things. But they don't. Anyway, let's keep pushing for the truth and get everybody sharing, alright? Share it, share it, share it. Email it here, I'll share it with the people. Tell my story at howtohunt.com, share my story at howtohunt.com. And we will get it shared. We're going to get the information out non-stop from the people. That's where all our information in this world comes from, our honest information, and what's where our honest information should come from. It's from the people. There you go. Oh, I'm tired. I got a big day tomorrow. I gotta get home, man. But I can't stand quitting. I can't stand quitting. And I came a long ways to get done what I wanted to get done. And I'm not done yet. So I gotta get to bed, get up early tomorrow, and put a big effort forward. Be safe out there, everybody.